I got fired on a Tuesday morning while polishing the espresso machine before opening. You're just not efficient enough, Elaine, my manager Marcus said, not quite meeting my eyes. Customers love you, but you're talking too much. This is a business, not a social club. Just like that, 5 years at Moonbeans Coffee ended with my apron being folded into a neat square on the counter. I'm Elaine Carter, 41 years old, single mother of 2, and apparently too chatty for the corporate coffee world. You can finish today's shift if you want, Marcus added, checking his watch. I looked around at the cafe I'd helped build. The regular customers would start arriving in 15 minutes, expecting their usual orders and conversations that apparently wasted company time. No, I said quietly, placing my name tag next to the folded apron. I think I'm done. As I walked out, I heard Marcus sigh with what sounded like relief. That's when I knew this wasn't really about talking too much. It was about the new regional manager's cost-cutting mission. I was the highest-paid barista, the one who'd been there longest, the one who remembered everybody's names and stories. That was now considered a liability. What Marcus didn't know was that I'd been saving for years. Small deposits from every paycheck, birthday money from my parents, tax returns, all going into an account labeled Someday. I never exactly knew what someday meant, but suddenly, standing on the sidewalk outside Moonbeans at 5:47 a.m. with no job, I had a moment of absolute clarity. I walked 6 blocks to Joey's Diner, ordered coffee that wasn't nearly as good as what I would have made, and pulled out my notebook. By the time my eggs arrived, I'd written 3 words at the top of a blank page: Carter's Coffee Connections. That was 12 months ago. I'd worked at Moonbeams since my divorce, after Tom left for his dental hygienist, and I needed steady work that could accommodate school pickups. Before kids, I'd been a hospitality manager at a boutique hotel downtown, but a decade of raising children had left a resume gap nobody seemed willing to overlook. Moonbeams hired me when nobody else would, and I'd been grateful, until I wasn't. The first thing I did after getting fired was call my sister Lauren. "They did what?" she practically yelled into the phone. "Because you were too nice to customers? That's literally insane." Apparently, I was cutting into efficiency metrics, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. "But Lauren, I think this might be the push I needed." "For what? To sue them?" "No," I said, the plan forming more clearly with each passing minute. "To open my own place." There was silence on the line. Then Lauren spoke carefully. "Elaine, starting a cafe costs a lot, and you've got the kids, the mortgage." "I have $47,000 saved," I told her. "I've been putting money aside since the divorce. I just never knew what for until today." "That's not enough," Lauren said. Always the practical one. "It's enough to start," I replied. "And I don't need to compete with Moonbeams. I'm thinking smaller, more personal. A place where talking to customers is the whole point." 3 days later, I was touring a tiny storefront that had previously been a florist shop. The space was cramped, needed updates, and was located on a side street with minimal foot traffic, which is why the rent was affordable. The landlord, an older man named Gerald, seemed skeptical when I mentioned a cafe. "The last 3 businesses here failed within a year," he warned. "Not enough visibility." I looked around the space, seeing not what it was, but what it could be. "I'm not worried about that," I said. "I already know my customers by name." That night, I made a list of every regular from Moonbeams I had a genuine connection with. People whose children's names I knew, whose job promotions I'd celebrated, whose breakups I'd consoled with extra chocolate on their mochas. 117 names. I still had all their orders memorized. I texted each one personally. "Hi, it's Elaine from Moonbeams. I'm starting my own small coffee shop. Would love to see you there when we open next month." 92 responded within 24 hours. 89 said they'd follow me anywhere for coffee. 26 offered to help with renovations, marketing, or loans. My son Dylan, 17, designed a logo and built a website. My daughter Zoe, 14, created our Instagram account. My ex-husband Tom, perhaps feeling guilty about the dental hygienist situation, offered his contractor brother-in-law at cost for renovations. Lauren took a week off work to help me navigate permits and licensing. We painted the walls ourselves, a warm terracotta that made the small space feel like someone's living room. I found mismatched vintage furniture at estate sales and thrift stores, no uniform tables and chairs like Moonbeam's corporate aesthetic. Each piece had character, like the people I hoped would sit in them. The espresso machine was my biggest investment. I refused to compromise on quality. The rest we pieced together: secondhand refrigerator, donated dishes, mugs collected from all over the city. It wasn't sleek or polished, but it felt like home. 2 days before opening, I received a text from Rita, a Moonbeam's regular who worked at the local paper. Marcus just got fired too. New regional manager replaced half the staff with part-timers. Place is a mess. I didn't feel the satisfaction I might have expected. Instead, I felt a twinge of sadness for the community that was being dismantled in the name of profit margins. Then I sent Marcus a text. Heard the news. Need a job? He called immediately. You're offering me a position? After I fired you? You were doing what they told you to do, I said. But here's the thing. At my place, talking to customers isn't just allowed, it's required. Think you can handle that? There was a pause, then a chuckle. Actually, yes. Turns out I hate corporate coffee as much as you do. Opening day arrived with little fanfare but a line around the block. Every single person from my text list showed up, plus their friends, family members, and coworkers. We had prepared for a crowd, but not like this. I told everyone at my office, explained Michael, a lawyer who used to come to Moonbeam's every morning for a double espresso and 5 minutes of conversation about his daughter's soccer team. We've missed you. By noon, we had sold out of everything. Marcus and I looked at each other in disbelief as we flipped the sign to closed at 12:30 instead of 6 p.m. What just happened? He asked, leaning against the counter. Community happened, I said, surveying the empty pastry case and coffee bins. We're going to need more of everything tomorrow. The next day was the same. And the next. By the end of the first week, we had to hire 2 more people. By the end of the first month, we expanded our hours and menu. 3 months in, we were profitable, something most cafes don't achieve for at least a year. The secret wasn't just good coffee, though we certainly had that. It wasn't the location, which remained challenging. It wasn't even the cozy atmosphere, though everyone commented on it. The secret was that we remembered people's names, their orders, their stories. We remembered that Amy's daughter had a ballet recital and asked how it went. We knew David was interviewing for a new job and gave him an encouraging word when he came in looking nervous in his suit. We celebrated birthdays, job offers, pregnancies, and first dates. We consoled breakups, failed exams, and bad days at work. We were everything Moonbeams had decided wasn't efficient enough. 6 months after opening, a reporter from the city magazine came in. She'd heard about the cafe where people willingly waited in line, not just for coffee, but for conversation. Her article, "The Anti-Corporate Coffee Shop Where Everybody Knows Your Name," ran on a Tuesday, exactly 1 year after I'd been fired. By noon that day, the line stretched further than ever before. New faces mixed with our regulars, all curious about this cafe that valued connection over efficiency. Marcus managed the line outside, chatting with people as they waited, making the time pass quickly. Inside, I worked the espresso machine while Dylan and our 2 new baristas handled the register and food. Zoe came in after school to help clear tables and take photos for our now thriving social media accounts. My parents had taken over bookkeeping, turning my haphazard system into something actually functional. At 3 p.m., when we hit a brief lull, I stepped outside for some air and saw a familiar face at the end of the line. The regional manager who had pushed for my firing was waiting, looking uncomfortable but determined. When he finally reached the counter, he ordered a simple black coffee. "You probably don't remember me," he started. "I remember everyone," I replied, simply pouring his coffee. He looked around at the bustling cafe. "I made a mistake," he admitted. "Moonbeams is struggling. 3 locations in the area have closed. I was wondering if you'd consider a consultation role, or maybe selling your concept to us." I handed him his coffee, refusing the money he offered. "On the house," I said. And no, I'm not interested in selling or consulting. But here's some free advice. People come for coffee, but they stay for connection. You can't spreadsheet your way to community. He nodded slowly, taking a sip. This is excellent coffee. No, I smiled. And now you know my name too. After he left, Marcus caught my eye from across the room and raised an eyebrow questioningly. I just shook my head and smiled. There was no price tag for what we'd built here. That evening, after closing, I sat alone in the empty cafe, looking at what we'd created from nothing but necessity and determination. The walls were now covered with customer photos, local art, and community flyers. The mismatched furniture had taken on a patina of use and belonging. The air smelled permanently of coffee and freshly baked goods. My phone dinged with a notification. It was an email from a commercial real estate agent. Second location possibilities. I smiled and put my phone away. There would be time for expansion later. For now, I wanted to savor what being fired for talking too much had given me. Not just a business, but a home for conversations that mattered. A place where efficiency took a backseat to humanity. A cafe named Carter's Coffee Connections that had become exactly what its name promised. As I turned off the lights, I thought about tomorrow's regulars who would come through the door. I knew exactly how they took their coffee, and more importantly, I knew exactly what was happening in their lives. They weren't just customers. They were the community I'd been building all along, even when Moonbeans thought I was just wasting time. Sometimes getting fired is the best thing that can happen to you. Sometimes talking too much is exactly the right amount of talking. And sometimes a coffee shop isn't just a place to get caffeine, it's a place to be known. I locked the door behind me, already looking forward to tomorrow's conversations.